You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. I am your host, Jeff Hinshaw. Thanks for tuning in. Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. And it is here to bring you back into alignment with the cosmos. So thank you for being here as always. Hey, Cosmic Cousins. Welcome back to another week of the podcast. Happy Sagittarius Full Moon to you. I hope this episode finds you well. We're right here. We're just about in the heart of Gemini season, which is kind of hard to believe. I'm like, wow, we're already in June. I mean, time is flying by this year, 2023, our chariot year. So, yes, this is our episode for Sagittarius, to honor Sagittarius. For those of you that are Sagittarius Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is your full moon of the year. We're gifted with one Sagittarius full moon every year, and here it is. And yes, it's in Gemini season because these are our polar signs. So also to the Geminis out there, happy solar return to you. Happy birthday. This is also a special lunation for you. So here on the podcast, we always will connect in with the full or the new moon. This episode is released every 2 weeks. We likely will connect to the body in some sort of way. We connect to the tarot. And usually there's going to be someone on the podcast that we interview. So we're going to do all of that today, just like normal. And I would just like to share who's on the podcast today before we get into talking about the full moon. So today our special guest is my dear friend and also a member of the Brooklyn Fool's Tarot Journey, the first year that it was ever a journey back in 2014. And that's Lindsey Mills. Lindsey Mills is here with us today, who is a musician. So we're going to listen to 4 of Lindsey's songs today through the lens of Sagittarius and her birth chart. She is a Sagittarius Sun with a Pisces Moon and a Leo Rising. And the title of this episode is called The Message is Mutable. The message is mutable, which is a phrase that came up during our conversation that Lindsey shared. And as soon as she said it, I was like, that is the title, because we explore so many mutable topics in this conversation. So you'll want to stick around for that if you're interested in the High Priestess in the tarot, using music to elicit a deeper connection to your intuition. We talk about Orpheus, the asteroid of musical talents. We talk about the shadow of Sagittarius, which is colonization, spiritual bypass, and saviorism. We get into the Gemini-Sagittarius polarity, which we will during our time together today, and many, many other topics. So stick around for that conversation. And before we get into tuning into the Sagittarius full moon, I would like to just share an announcement. I have a new offering. It is a 5-week summer series offering that will be facilitated by me on Monday nights this summer, Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be gathering for an hour and a half over Zoom for 5 weeks straight, from the Gemini new moon to the Cancer new moon. So this is June 19th through July 17th, 5 Mondays in a row, and we're honoring the asteroids and the planetoids. So this series is going to cover Chiron, Black Moon Lilith, Eris, Pallas, Vesta, Ceres, and Juno. So if you are interested in diving deeper into the planetoids and asteroids, this is the summer series offering for you. It's going to be a transformative journey in community into the world of these planetoids and asteroids. And so it's designed for anyone interested in diving deeper into astrology, tarot, or spiritual practices. And each week you will gather with participants who are like-minded and explore the astrological themes of the asteroid or the planetoid of the week. So if you want to learn more about this, you can check out the link in the show notes, or you can go to cosmiccousins.com. Throughout the series, I'm going to be providing insight into astrology and tarot, helping you deepen your understanding of these powerful celestial bodies through a queer, non-binary lens. I'm really excited to gather in community with you. And yes, I think it is one of the more affordable offerings that I have too. So please check that out if you're wanting to learn this summer, which feels quite appropriate for the Sagittarius full moon, because Sagittarius is all about going on some sort of journey of self-exploration, expanding the horizons of your mind. So let's transition into the Sagittarius full moon talk. Again, the 5-week summer series is open for enrollment now. Check out the link in the show notes or go to cosmiccousins.com. And at this time, let's transition into the Sagittarius full moon. Okay, so Sagittarius is our collective fire sign, our transpersonal fire sign, meaning it's connected to high ideals. It's connected to the community through the lens of the very fiery, uplifting quality of the flame. So each time we gather, I will share with you 3 phrases, and these phrases I am tuning into. They're intuitive based off of this particular lunation, and they are here to inspire either a 3-card tarot spread, journal prompts. They can act as an affirmation. So I wanted to focus on the archer for these phrases. So call to mind the bow and arrow. So the first phrase is I draw back. We're pulling back on the arrow. The second phrase is I aim. And the third phrase is I release. I think this is a really great meditation for Sagittarius and also for the Sagittarius full moon, because I draw back is this almost like this building of momentum that also takes strength, and it also takes a certain level of resourcefulness and wisdom to draw back. And so you can think about drawing back on the arrow, and I'm also thinking about just energetically or spiritually in your own life, what does it mean for you to draw back? What does it mean for you to conserve your energy before you release it? So I draw back and then I aim. Sagittarius has a fierce focus and aim. Some Sagittariuses and just Sagittarius energy can make us feel scattered, and we might feel that in the Gemini-Sagittarius polarity, but both Gemini and Sagittarius are actually about integration. You know, building bridges between duality is a part of this theme of the Gemini-Sagittarius polarity. So to develop the discernment, to develop the focus, the discipline to have aim is Sagittarian. So I draw back. I aim, I release. I release is connecting us to the forward momentum of this fire sign. I release is connecting us to the faith, to the wisdom of trusting in the process. So these are our 3 phrases. Let's breathe them into the body. I draw back, I aim, I release. Sagittarius' body parts. This is the hips, the thighs, the legs, the buttocks, the liver, the muscles, the sciatic nerve, and the IT band. These are all Sagittarius' body parts. So let's bring loving awareness to our hips, our thighs, our legs. You can take a deep breath in there. And then as you exhale, allow yourself to soften through these parts of the body. I draw back, I aim, I release. So yes, the Sagittarius full moon is upon us. And this brings illumination, as full moons often will. This brings illumination to the bigger picture of the many themes unfolding in your life. Sagittarius orients its vision high, whereas Gemini season is likely getting us more interested in our immediate surroundings. But Sagittarius wants to remind you that you are on a path of growth and expansion. Sagittarius wants to remind you that you are on a path of growth and expansion. Can you breathe into this expansion? Any parts of you that feel restricted or maybe not aligned with these principles, can you allow them to take a back seat? And can you trust and believe in this fiery optimism of the archer? Along with this expanse, what I think is so important about Sagittarius, and it's, part of the wisdom of the legs, is that actually Sagittarius, when it is aligned with its soul gifts, is very rooted, is very connected to the earth. Actually, Sagittarius, whose traditional ruling planet is Jupiter, finds itself through the lens of esoteric astrology being ruled by the earth. Sagittarius's esoteric ruling planet is the earth. So we're talking about the legs, we're talking about the earth, we're talking about being rooted and grounded in order to develop the discipline needed to stay connected to the feet, to the ground, in order to aim that arrow high. So Sagittarius encourages you to stay grounded and focused and centered in order to reach higher heights. So some questions for us to reflect on: what needs to fall away in order to give you more freedom and flexibility? What needs to fall away in order to give you more freedom and flexibility? How are you reorienting yourself towards a greater uniting truth? So we connect to the legs, we connect to the earth, and we ask ourselves these questions. So during Gemini season, here on the Northern Hemisphere, this is the lightest time of the year. We are almost to the summer solstice. If you're on the Southern Hemisphere, this is the darker time of the year, and it's taking you to the shortest day of the year. Either way, there's a duality that is present. And so during Gemini season, we are gifted many opportunities to better understand our own inherent duality within ourselves and also in the world around us. So this can have us split in two directions, maybe multiple directions. There can be a scattering to our approach. There is a bit of a social orientation this time of year. And so just even having a conversation with someone else might scatter your own intentions, but also we need relationships and social interaction too. But the Sagittarius full moon helps to balance this duality of Gemini. So if you've been hanging out a lot with your cosmic twin, you've been talking on the phone a lot, sending voice memos, taking a lot of workshops, writing a lot, whatever it is that you've been doing to express Gemini, Sagittarius actually grounds Gemini. I know for some that might feel hard to believe that Sagittarius is a grounding force. But again, I want to connect us to this archer, connected to the legs, connected to the earth. And perhaps this is coming through because the ruling planet for Sagittarius, Jupiter, is currently in the very earthy, fixed earth sign of Taurus. And the North Node of Fate is also aligned with Jupiter in this fixed earth sign of Taurus. The North Node of Fate has a very Sagittarian invitation of evolution and expansion. Jupiter is the planet of the accumulation of our wisdom. And so it is first coming through the body, Taurus. The Sagittarius full moon, again, it's here to balance the duality of Gemini. And it can help to ground Gemini. Actually, all the fire signs help to ground the air. Leo helps to ground Aquarius. Aries helps to ground Libra. And Sagittarius helps to ground Gemini. I know we might not think about this with fire, but in order to have the flame, we must have some sort of fuel to feed the flame, the earth. So again, Sagittarius is encouraging us this Gemini season to focus. You know, the bow and arrow, focusing on its target, to practice discernment through fire, through transcendence. Sagittarius also inspires Gemini to actually take action. Gemini might have a million ideas. Sagittarius says, let's create the vision and go for it. So what this offers us is now is a time to check in with our beliefs. Gemini is thoughts. Sagittarius is beliefs. So let's discard the negative talk. Let's discard the negative beliefs that are rooted in shame and fear, that are wanting to keep us limited in our immediate surroundings. Instead, how might we uplift our beliefs to connect to freedom, to connect to expansion? A lot of times this can come through the lens of some sort of philosophy, which Sagittarius is connected to. So now is a time to reconnect to your beliefs with optimism, with faith, with hope. Stay focused on your ideals. Again, our questions for reflection. What needs to fall away in order to give me more freedom and flexibility? How am I reorienting myself towards a greater uniting truth? Sagittarius's affirmation. I have 2 that I wrote for this full moon. I invite you to breathe them into your body and notice how they land. I am free to explore and experience new things. I am free to explore and experience new things. What parts of you do not believe in this affirmation? Where might you have some constriction when you hear this? And can you soften that constriction? Can you release any spiritual debris that's blocking you from fully embodying this truth? I am free to explore and experience new things. What would it feel like to embody this affirmation? Our next affirmation. I am grateful for the abundance of opportunities in my life. I am grateful for the abundance of opportunities in my life. What would it feel like to embody this truth? What parts of you are creating a cross current to blocking this affirmation from being true? Whatever you're clearing up and clearing out that is blocking you from stepping into this truth, we're releasing on this full moon. I am free to explore and experience new things. I am grateful for the abundance of opportunities in my life. This Sagittarius full moon is Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. And Saturday, this is Saturn's day, which brings a focus to Saturn and Pisces. And Saturn and Pisces is square to this Sagittarius full moon. These are mutable signs. Saturn and Pisces is asking us to commit to our emotional depth, to create a structure for greater forgiveness, compassion, universal love. Saturn in Pisces wants us to commit to our spiritual gifts. Sagittarius could definitely back this up, but Pisces is wanting a deeper, more reflective way of being. And so you might find yourself moving through something a bit more emotional. So be mindful of the emotion. Be mindful of whatever karmic cycles you find yourself moving through at this time. So Saturday, June 3rd, 8:41 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, found at 13 degrees and 17 minutes of Sagittarius. One of the ways I've seen Saturn and Pisces showing up for clients is actually restricting one's alcohol intake or sugar intake. Pisces is connected to these, kind of things that might allow us to escape the realities of the world, like drinking alcohol. But Saturn wants us to be responsible. So Saturn in Pisces is also committing to a regular sleep schedule. Pisces rules over sleep, so you might find that you need a little bit extra rest right now. Or maybe you find Saturn in Pisces is encouraging you to commit to a meditation practice. Either way, this full moon falling on a Saturday is bringing our awareness to Saturn. I wanted to honor the life of Tina Turner. Tina Turner recently passed away, and she was named our Queen of Sagittarius. So I thought, with all of the potential expansion available with this Gemini-Sagittarius polarity, it could be nice to check in with our zodiac queens, both Queen of Gemini, Stevie Nicks, and Queen of Sagittarius, Tina Turner. And so what these two individuals remind us about Gemini and Sagittarius is that both Gemini and Sagittarius benefit from some sort of spiritual practice, some sort of connection with something greater than the self. So both of these women, Stevie Nicks, Queen of Gemini, Tina Turner, Queen of Sagittarius, exuded this in their life. They both moved through incredible adversity in their lives. And they remind us the importance of Gemini and Sagittarius going within, connecting to the self and connecting to something greater. So Stevie Nicks, in her life, which she just had her birthday, happy birthday, Stevie Nicks, hit rock bottom with her addictions. Tina Turner hit rock bottom with an abusive relationship, but they both rose back up on top through spiritual practices. And they then shared their experiences through their wisdom and their creativity, uplifting the collective with love. So let's reflect on each of their lives. Stevie Nicks became sober and gained control of her life through AA, and has talked in interviews about her spiritual practice with magic, angels, fairies, and a belief in past lives. I find this interesting. This feels very Gemini. The AA practice connects us to Gemini because it is communicative, it's relational. There's also quite a logical feel to it, and it's connected to one's immediate community. But then she also has the belief in angels and fairies and past lives. And this adds in the connection to magic, that we feel the duality of contradiction of the very ethereal Gemini. One twin is often thought to be in the here and now, very connected to this conscious world. Like this is the person on Twitter, or very connected to the news. But at the same time, that within that Gemini, they're also connected to the numinous. They're connected to the spiritual. And so Geminis, and wherever you have Gemini in your chart, has this ability to be in the here and the now, very connected to current culture, but also builds a bridge to the unseeable, the unknowable, the esoteric, the occult. And there's a shape-shifting quality that Gemini shows us here. And so Stevie Nicks, she gained control of her life through AA and also through these magical spiritual practices and shape-shifting the two. This is what we love about Gemini. Tina Turner, on the other hand, also utilized spiritual practices to transform her life. She was a self-proclaimed Buddhist Baptist, and this alludes to her upbringing in the Baptist church and her later conversion to Buddhism. Tina healed her life through the power of the chant Nam Myo Renge Kyo. And she sat at her altar in the morning chanting. And so one of Sagittarius' soul missions is to build bridges between the religions of the world. Tina later went on to release a Buddhist chant album bringing together 30 children, each from a different nation. So this fiery chanting practice connects us to Sagittarius. It also connects us to high ideals and to the world at large. It's a practice coming from another part of the world. So both of these mutable signs are connected to duality. Sagittarius, the centaur, half horse, half human. Gemini, the twins. And so there is this benefit of connecting to the outer world, but also reconnecting to the internal world through a spiritual practice. And so do we during these particular transits. So a Sagittarius full moon, it isn't so much about what's going on in the world around you. It isn't so much about where are you going and how are you getting there. But how are you connecting with something greater than yourself at this time? What do your angels have to say? Are you connecting with a logical spiritual practice that holds you accountable? Are you transforming your life through a fiery devotional practice? How are you staying focused and tapped into source consciousness? These are some questions to be reflecting on. So on this Sagittarius full moon, yes, open yourself up to insights into the ways you might feel yourself expanding over this next year, but also give your mind and aspirations a rest. The full moon is often for me a time where I rest and reflect. So release the need to know. If you can, open yourself up to communication with spirit and come back home to your breath. If we want to be practical and in the body, move your body. This is mutable. Move your legs, Sagittarius. Move your arms, Gemini. And once you expand the horizons of your connection within yourself, your world will naturally expand without. So I put my faith in something greater than myself. You could say this to yourself. And notice what that might feel like. Notice how that might expand your auric body. I put my faith in something greater than myself. I lovingly let go of control. So I'm wishing you an expansive Sagittarius full moon, both within and without. Thank you so much, as always, for being here. Right now, I have 2 time slots left for deep dive astrology or tarot readings this June, and I have openings in both July and August for readings as well. I also have 1 more opening left for a summer deep dive mentorship with me. I would be honored to hold space for your journey in this way. And again, I have this new 5-week summer series on the asteroids and planetoids that starts on June 19th on the Gemini new moon. Again, links in the show notes for all of that. And if you'd like to support the show, you could always rate and review. You could leave 5 stars. You could leave some comments and love. You could also become a Patreon supporter for the show at patreon.com/cosmiccousins. And there are some free workshops linked up in Patreon there for you if you do decide to do that. So I would like to read a comment. I'm not sure if I've read this one or not, but this is a comment that says, "So sweet and informative. I've been listening to Cosmic Cousins for a few years now. It has become a wonderful way for me to meditate on the new and full moons. Jeff words and choices and guests are so regulating to my nervous system and help me ground into the cosmos and the earth within." Boom, boom, boom. That is so great to hear. I love that you're saying the choices and guests are regulating for your nervous system. And I hope that our guest today is as well. So again, we are gathering with Lindsey Mills today and going to listen to 4 of her songs through the lens of Sagittarius and her birth chart. And so at this time, let's transition into this conversation with Lindsey Mills now.
Woohoo!
I'm so excited to be here with you.
Me too.
We were just checking in before we pressed record, and to me, energetically, what it felt like was like pulling back on the bow and arrow, because I feel like we're about to just launch off into a very Sagittarian conversation. I get this feeling, particularly for me as an Aquarius, when I'm with Sagittariuses, there's like this kind of like buzzy feeling where I'm just like, feel very excited to be here with you. So let me introduce you to the Cosmic Cousins listeners. So today with us on the podcast, we have the honor of gathering with Lindsey Mills, who is a dear friend of mine from back in the Brooklyn days. You were part of the original first year Brooklyn Fool's Tarot Journey, which was the full year of the Fool's Journey. It very much was. So I'm looking forward to checking in about that tarot journey with you today.
Yes.
Reflecting on it. But let me read your bio so we know what we're working with here. Lindsey Mills is a multimedia creatrix, bassist of indie rock band Surfer Blood, fifth generation Floridian, and gender-nonconforming swamp witch, wandering the wilds of Web3, which I think, does that mean World Wide Web?
Web3 is something that I can define more clearly as we chat, but it's really related to the kind of crypto and NFT explorations I've been doing.
Okay. Yes. You know, interesting, people associate Aquarius with the future and technology, but Sagittarius, y'all are more in the future than Aquarius, I think. We'll talk about that today. Lindsey records and releases. Lindsey records and releases her own music, creates visual projections, music videos, curated events, and most recently added digital collectibles to her body of work. Welcome to Cosmic Cousins.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. Okay, so what's your big three? What's your sun, moon, rising?
Okay, so I am a Sagittarius sun, Pisces moon, getting the water baby in there, and a Leo rising.
Leo rising. You know, it's interesting because when we first met, I was like dabbling in astrology, but I wasn't like fully in it. And I remember people who were in the Fool's Journey, like the person that's coming to mind right now is Brad Silk, who was like really into astrology, which is also interesting because Brad hosted the Chariot Gathering, and you're a Chariot life path, which I want to get in today with you. Gathering, actually. I think you launched in during the Chariot Gathering, actually.
You're right.
Yeah. And you're
great memory.
Life path. Maybe let's just start there. I know we're like just going to flow in that mutable Sagittarian way.
That's how we roll.
I want to show you the Chariot card from the Fifth Spirit Tarot, which is a tarot for a world beyond binary. Did you know you're a Chariot life path?
No.
Oh, this is exciting.
I love learning new things.
There's always more things to learn. So we'll get your first impression of what this means. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the life path, essentially what you do is you add up the digits of your birthday until it's a single digit. So can we share what your birthday is with the...
Yes.
Okay, so December 4th, Sagittarius, 1989. So let's just redo the math to make sure I did it right. So December is 12, so 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 for December 4th is 7, which 7 is the Chariot number. So already you can just do without the year. You're a 7 without the year, but when we add in the year too, 7. So 7 plus 1 is 8, plus 9 is 17, plus 8.
25.
Plus 9. Wait, hold
34.
On. 34. Okay.
You were right.
3 plus 4 is 7. Okay, good. So 7 in the tarot is the Chariot. I want to show you the Chariot from the Fifth Spirit Tarot because it looks like you.
Oh my God, cool.
In many ways, because I know you as a roller skater. Here is the Fifth Spirit Tarot. It shows a figure.
Oh, so rad.
With their arms crossed. It's like a roller derby captain chick.
I see that.
just like, yes, there's that kind of vibe. And then they have number 7, lucky number 7 on their armband. They have a crescent shoulder pad tattoo, wings tattooed across their chest, and then a black skate and a white skate. So when I saw you were a Chariot life path, I immediately thought of this depiction of the Chariot, because you do post a lot of you like skating on your What is it bringing up for you in this moment that you're a Chariot life path? And my mind's kind of blown, because that was your first gathering in the Brooklyn Fools tarot journey.
I love that we put all of this together right here, right now. My first impressions, I think, are relating to how surprised I was by 2 things. The fact that a space like the Fool's Journey existed. It was my first year living in New York City. I was definitely on a Sagittarian streak of traveling and trying out new places, wondering where home was going to be after college, and meeting you serendipitously and then receiving the invitation to hop on the journey, even though it had already started. I felt very lucky that it all came together, and felt surrounded in that first gathering by my peers for the first time in a very long time. And possibly the first time I felt like I was at the threshold of a magical community. So that's huge, because I definitely self-identify as a witch, and that was born of that era of my life. And so that brings me to the second thing that is so surprising and delightful about the fact that I guess I'm a Chariot life path, is that through that meeting, I learned that the Chariot appears as if it's in motion. And when I think of a Chariot, and when I think of roller skates, I think of motion. I think of forward momentum. But the funny thing about the Chariot is it's the point where you've been going uphill for quite some time, and you've actually arrived at a precipice, at a plateau of sorts, where you have this new bird's eye view, and you can look out and see where you've come from and where you're going. And so I think I was surprised by the aspect of deep thought and pause that is actually involved in the Chariot.
Yes, this like sacred pause. Sometimes I even think of it as like a pregnant pause, where it's like,
ooh, yes,
like building like some sort of momentum. And I'm thinking now, I've never thought of this, like being at the top of, like, maybe you've been like skating up the hill, which isn't as fun as going down the hill.
Totally.
And so we're taking everything into consideration with what you're saying, because this is the year 2023, which is the Chariot collective year. If you add up the digit, +0 +2 +3 is 7. So we're in a Chariot collective year right now. And the year that we met and did the Fool's Journey was 2014, which was also a Chariot year. So
wow.
The last time we had a Chariot year was the year that we met. So it's like full circle. I want to add a little bit more to this, because if you look, the glyph patched onto the chest of the Chariot is Cancer. This is Cancer's card. And you are a Sagittarius with your ruling planet Jupiter in Cancer, which is the Sagittarian pursuit to find your way back home, Cancer.
Wow.
Which I heard you talk about a bit in that finding your home is in community, your witchy community, but also you're saying you're on this like Sagittarian quest to find home. Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter in Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of themes bubbling up here, but I love this invitation for all of us to consider in a Chariot year, collective Chariot year, how we might be on some sort of precipice of like stillness, a pregnant pause, waiting to kind of feel into what we feel is like coming on the other side. We don't quite know yet, but yeah, the Chariot is not necessarily set in motion, although at some point it will be.
Bombing that hill is going to be scary and fun, right?
Yeah.
That's the roller skating metaphor, is just that feeling of adrenaline, standing at the top and seeing there's the way down. Am I going to have the guts to start?
It's making me think of this song, What Goes Up Must Come Down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that song is coming to mind right now. And in my mind, Tina Turner sings it just because she's Queen of Sagittarius.
Yes.
We're honoring her life today.
Oh, wow. Rest in power, Tina Turner.
Yes. How do you feel connected and seen by Tina Turner, knowing that she is a Sagittarius?
I learned about her chanting and her explorations of Buddhism through your Queens of the Zodiac exploration. So I really loved diving into those videos of her chanting and how there can be, I think, this sense of contradiction, maybe, where a lot of times I can feel like boxed in by the world that I live in. And part of my nature is to want to pursue truth, and realizing that not only was Tina Turner, a survivor of abuse who rose above what happened to her to pursue an even grander career as a solo artist. I connected with her as a musical icon long before that, but adding the element of meditation, and that she decided to spend her life in Europe after having the freedom to choose where she lived. There's so much about Tina that has inspired me, and was glad at least to see that she lived to be 84 and lived some years in her crone energy.
For sure. And as an astrologer, when I hear 84, I think of Uranus, because Uranus takes 84 years to go around the sun.
Oh, wow.
She actually passed away on her Uranus return, and she was a Uranus midheaven. Midheaven's the top of the chart, like your public appearance, and she's very Uranian in the public, Uranus and Taurus. So, okay, we want to listen to some of your music today.
Yay, yeah.
And I have selected 4 songs that I wanted to listen to. You said that I got to pick, so I picked 4 songs, and I don't think you know which ones they are yet.
I do not.
Oh, good. So which one do we want to start with? I think I want to start with the one that's called the Ooze.
Cool. Yeah.
It's a vibe, and I think it has a nice Sagittarian vibe to it. When I think of Sagittarius, one of my favorite musicians that's a Sagittarius is Jimi Hendrix.
Ooh, yes.
And there's sort of this and also Tina Turner's like queen of rock and soul. Like there's like a side to Sagittarius that takes you on a journey. And when I think of Sagittarius and music, I also think of Alice Coltrane. She was...
Wow. These are some of my favorite references you could possibly make.
Virgo with a Sagittarius moon, I believe, or Sagittarius rising. I believe Virgo with Sagittarius moon is Alice Coltrane. But there is this journey that Sagittarius will take you on in their music. And maybe I feel that in the Ooze is why maybe that's the song that I want to start out with. But for all of us here, we're gathering under the light of the Sagittarius full moon. And so it does feel like a good full moon to get lost on some sort of journey, whether that's outward or internal. I often do think it can be quite internal. Like this is a full moon to maybe listen to music and be guided into meditation to get deeper to the truth of who you are. Because the Sagittarius full moon will likely illuminate for us what we desire in the year to come as far as the journey that we're on and the pursuit that we're on to get closer to wholeness within the self. And so music is such an ally in that. And this is something that I think both actually Sagittarius and Pisces have in common, which is interesting because you also have the Pisces moon, which I think you reference in the ooze.
I do.
Pisces. So how does astrology influence your work as a musician? And knowing that we're listening to the ooze, is there anything that you would like to say about this song before we listen to it?
Sure. What's coming to mind is the first song I wrote after joining the Brooklyn Fools, and this new perspective I was developing, where I had always been curious about horoscopes, read them in the newspaper as a child, identified with my sign before I really knew anything about the other ones. But I hadn't really grasped the goal of all spellcraft, really, as I have come to see it, is to wield your personal power and to gain access to your intuitive sense that gets covered over by the world that we live in. So it's like getting back to the truth that you are. And once I started feeling that in all aspects of my life, I realized, well, the people writing the horoscopes, they feel into what they think the transits are going to mean for each of the signs. But what happens really has much more to do with what I take from that interpretation. And so I think from then on, lyrically, I have this bit of like Joker energy, I would say, and like jestery feeling where I want to tease people out of this like comfort zone of just accepting reality as you see it. I think we often underestimate how much is going on and how much power we as individuals have to influence. So your word is your wand is one very quick way to say it. And I think with the ooze, it was a song that I sat on for a long time. And it just occurred to me, Jeff, that the reason that you are attracted to it is because you asked the Fools to submit like some kind of art piece connecting with the archetype of a card from the major arcana. And I wrote this song for that assignment that you gave us, and I made a video of myself playing it. And this was like 8 years ago or something, right?
Oh my goddess. Which card were you writing it for?
The High Priestess.
Ooh, gorgeous. So
High Priestess energy.
We could take the High Priestess card out and maybe even gaze at the card while we listen to it. Do you think that would be helpful or fun?
Yes, I think the High Priestess is the embodiment of what I was just describing, that like very deep inner knowing and trusting the voice that comes from within you.
Yes. I'm looking, you have different cover art for like each song that you do, which I think is cool. And in this image, what I'm seeing is you have short hair that is dyed purple or lavender. And you're blindfolded with what appears to me to be like velvet. And then you have, it kind of almost looks like Taurus, like these horns.
Spot on.
I'm also wondering, like, is this the triple crown that the High Priestess wears and the Rider-Waite-Smith as well? But yeah, there's a definite vibe here going on.
It's the crown of Hathor, the goddess from Egyptian mythology of fertility, and often represented by a cow. So the Taurus vibe is there. But I will give just a little bit of context, and maybe we can put a link or something for the folks listening to be able to see the artwork. But it was inspired by an NFT collection. So there's many layers here. It's called Crypto Coven. And they're a series of 8,888 different unique profiles of witches of different archetypes. And so this was the one that I connected with. Their name is Xenia, the Deep Beach. Mm-hmm. And they all have unique names. I was totally fascinated when I discovered this little like corner of the internet. So the fact that there were like witchy, awakened, powerful femmes with an awareness of how to code, how to create generative art, how to use AI, like all of these crossroads of things that are all interesting to me. So it was a whole rabbit hole that led to this song and that artwork.
Sagittarius rabbit holes, you know? There's
a thing.
Mind is firing off in a lot of different directions. I want to talk more about NFTs and crypto with you and like online witch covens, crypto covens. I want to talk about all that, but I also want to listen to this song too.
Let's do it.
Listen to a few other songs too. So I'm just going to read the lyrics first. Because sometimes it's nice to hear them before we listen to a song so we can really just like receive the words.
I like that.
Yeah. And get your High Priestess card out. Go on a little journey. This is something I do in my own practice, is where I will gaze at a card while listening to a song and let the song unlock a deep, intimate relationship to my intuition. And it helps develop a relationship with that card. So I'm going to put a High Priestess card up on the screen for both of us to look at while we listen to the song. But here are the lyrics. I'm waiting on a sharper wind to blow. I feel the onset of a mood indigo. Big storm beckoning, getting in tune with the dark feminine. Hear talk of a python, eyes of a woman, raging river hips, belongs to no one. I can see myself alone in feathered gown, quicksand to my cypress knees while the sun beats up the ground. Oh, what am I drowning in? Where is land? The moon is in Pisces, my heart in my hands. Wait and see if the yolk of me looks anything at all like the ooze. Hey. What does it feel like to just like hear the lyrics read versus like experiencing the song and have someone else to read them?
That was so enjoyable for me. I liked it because I was able to hear the rhyming pattern really clearly and obviously. And I think my songwriting process is really intertwined, where I make the music on my guitar as I'm creating the melody and weaving the lyrics. And so I lose track, I think, of the rhymes in the flow of the song. But I enjoyed hearing it that way.
I'm going to pull up a High Priestess card. The High Priestess that I want to pull up is from the I Light Tarot, which actually is Modest Mouse's tarot deck that they like hired an artist to make a deck. But it's called the I Light Tarot, and I brought it up last week on the Taurus New Moon episode, and Taurus came up in our conversation with like the horns. And
yes,
Taurus is connected to the third eye, and I brought this card up because we were talking about the connection Taurus has to the third eye, the bullseye, last time. And I will include an image of this. I'll post it somewhere on social media so y'all can see it. But it shows, I'm going to share the screen with you now. It shows a woman or a figure topless in a body of water. Their skin is hot pink and they're covering their eyes, but then their third eye is illuminated. So let's gaze at this card together, this High Priestess, while we listen to your song.
I looks anything at all like the
Goddess. I am obsessed with this song. So witty, and you can't see us for those listening, but I was grooving the whole time. There's something about your music that makes me want to move my body, which feels Sagittarian to me too. I do think a Sagittarius, this mutable fire, needs to be moving body and energy through and out and around. And
it makes me happy to hear you say that. I think I've always been a big dance music fan, and yet the music that I make is a little bit more of like a rock feel, I would say. So to bridge the gap and to be making the music that I make, but for it to still inspire you to want to move, like that's the goal. So
yeah, and the movement it feels like internal in some ways, like sensual and internal, like it gives me an experience with myself. And I also just I know that you live in Florida, but like I just feel like I'm in like a cool bar in Florida, I don't know, just like grooving, and then going to the beach after or something, I don't know. Like it's a vibe. I've actually never really spent too much time in Florida.
You're welcome anytime.
I have a friend here in Portland who is a Sagittarius. He's very Sagittarian and he's from Florida himself. So Jeff Sheridan, I wonder if he'll be listening to this. To tell him to listen, because Florida, 5th generation Floridian, you shared in your bio, which is interesting, to have that like ancestral knowledge.
Yeah, it's a rare thing. Having been born and raised here, I realized pretty early on that there aren't a ton of people who are born and raised here. It's a lot of folks from other parts of the country, like their grandparents retire here or they moved during the pandemic. A lot of times, that's what I'll hear recently, because it is a kind of paradise. It's also got its issues, as is very much in the news right now.
What do you do with that rage as a swamp witch living in Florida? It's definitely it's a melting pot of a lot of different thoughts, beliefs, worldviews, all kind of there in the swamp.
It's true. Yes. This blending and mixing of all of those things. And I think it's sort of, I guess I have to attribute it to my Sagittarian optimism. I just have this tendency / ability. I do see it as a gift most of the time, to recognize that there's very little that I as an individual can do to change other people. However, there is great power in the individual and in setting an example, I think, with the way that you live. And the practice for me in the last 10 years, when it's become increasingly political, there's a lot of disagreement among people in my home in South Florida. And yet compassion, of course, is my biggest weapon. And I like to imagine that when I get cut off in traffic by a really large pickup truck with very large flags hanging in the bed of the truck, that, you know, that they can't move, and I'm just hugging them, and I'm hugging them really tight, and I'm telling them, I know you weren't loved so much in your childhood. I love you. The world loves you. You deserve goodness. And so that came about, I think, out of necessity, because I was experiencing a lot of rage, and it started to feel bad. I don't like to scream curse words in my car when I experience, you know, somebody driving poorly. I needed to turn that around for myself. So that's my main tactic.
You are a better person than me. And I'm hoping it's a bit contagious. I will think of you now when I see a giant truck with flags hanging out the back. The best part is they can't move in this meditation. So it's like, I'm safe to just hug them, even though they're really hating it. It's like, it gives me a little bit of like perverse pleasure to see how much they resist being loved and receiving love. Makes me think of when I try to pick up my dog. He's like kicking to get out of my arms.
Yes.
Also feeling, okay, so you're a Sagittarius sun with Jupiter and Cancer. That Jupiter and Cancer is coming through again. Cancer, you know, is connected to both the Chariot and the High Priestess, which came up in our combo.
Wow. Yeah.
And you have Sun and Sag in the 5th house of creative expression. So you being a musician, like that feels like so right on there, just like expressing yourself in the world. But this Jupiter in Cancer is in the 11th house of the greater collective and community. So Jupiter in Cancer is exalted. It's like, this is Jupiter exalted in the sign of Cancer. And I always think of Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter's big and Cancer's a hug. So it's like a big hug.
Ooh.
And we would look to Jupiter in your chart to say, like, well, how do you express your Sagittarian energy? Well, in the 5th house, creative expression, and inner child healings, 5th house too.
Definitely.
But Cancer in the 11th is through big emotional connection to humanity, 11th house, to the collective, to communities. So that compassion you're talking about, we have the moon in Pisces, which you talked about in the song, and you have Jupiter in Cancer. So I want to talk a little bit more about this moon in Pisces too, because I went down a Sagittarius rabbit hole myself and discovered something really cool.
Okay.
Something that I feel is quite Sagittarian about your work. Not only do you take us on a journey in your work, but you also often call upon mythology. So you talked about how the cover for Ooze was inspired by a mythological goddess. And you have another song that mentions Orpheus, who is also a mythological figure for us. And so this is the rabbit hole I went down. And this is the next song that I want to listen to, which is
fun.
Which is Sad and Beautiful, which I do think is going to connect us to your Pisces moon a bit.
Totally.
And, you sing about Orpheus here. So the rabbit hole I went down, I was like, okay, I know there's thousands of asteroids. There must be an asteroid named Orpheus. And there is.
Oh.
So I looked up where Orpheus is in your birth chart, where Orpheus is in my chart, and also where it is on this Sagittarius full moon. And so I'm just going to share a little bit about what I uncovered and discovered. But the website that I went to it's mysticalprophet.com. And then their headline is "The Stars Impel, They Do Not Compel." This article that they wrote is Meaning of Orpheus and Astrology, the Asteroid of Musical Talents. So it seems very important when interviewing a Sagittarius musician who sings about Orpheus to look up the asteroid of musical talents. So this is what Mystical Prophet writes about Orpheus. The legendary Greek musician, prophet, and poet Orpheus is famous for his ability to enchant listeners and animals alike with his musical compositions and Greek mythology. His mythical parentage places him as the offspring of the god of the sun, Apollo. And the muse, the mother is the muse. Do you know how to say the mother's name?
Calliope.
Calliope. Because I think about Orpheus's mom in the song.
Yes, and Calliope is a constellation.
Do you know where?
I don't.
Okay. Well, this is
another rabbit hole.
Aquarius and Sagittarius get together. We just launch off into the cosmos. Orpheus, whom Apollo had given a lyre. I say that right? A lyre?
A lyre.
A lyre. See, I need a Sagittarius to keep me on track here. A lyre played it so beautifully that it could soften the hearts of stone. His tunes have been said to be so entrancing that they could even make trees dance and move. In astrology, the asteroid Orpheus represents our creative talents, musical expression, and the quest for more profound meaning in life. It's also linked to the concepts like soul searching and experiencing of loss. Particularly a person's artistic capacity, how they deal with sorrow and loss, and their quest for higher purpose, often through music, may all be gleaned from where Orpheus is placed in their natal chart.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
Absolutely gorgeous. So where is Orpheus in your chart? You ready for this?
I'm so ready.
Conjunct your moon and Pisces. You have Orpheus and Pisces right next to your moon. It makes me want to cry. Knowing you sang the song about Orpheus. I mean, astrology just never ceases to blow my mind. I am also a songwriter, and I have Mercury and Jupiter in Pisces, and I have Orpheus in Pisces as the midpoint between these two planets.
Fabulous.
Yes. So we both have Orpheus and Pisces, and we connect.
Wow. Oh, and Pisces is the poet.
Pisces is the poet, the songwriter, the photographer, these mystical art forms.
The psychopomp.
Yes. So where is Orpheus on this new moon or this full moon in Sagittarius? Orpheus is in Cancer, conjunct Venus in Cancer on this full moon.
Wow.
So let's look at the exact degree. So we can look to this part of our chart. Orpheus is at 21 degrees of Cancer on this full moon, and Venus is at 28 degrees of Cancer. And we were talking about your Jupiter in Cancer, and we're connecting to Orpheus on this full moon. This is what's wanting to come through. So let's listen to this song, and then we'll reflect on all that we've learned. So I'm going to just share some of the lyrics, and then we'll listen to the song. Sad and beautiful. The cock crows at dawn, but one cock alone doesn't summon the sun. Some still maintain that Orpheus sings the sun up each day. Yet in the throes of carnival's close, it seems to be true, but one rooster's crow is a pale echo, still sad and beautiful. Dream wine and moonlight infused, Orpheus conjures his mama the muse, one cock alone crying out in the night, bewitching the stones. Still sad and beautiful. You gotta pay the piper if you want to call the tune. Even that cock was an egg laid last June. Even if he had the strength of 10, still sad and beautiful. Fountains are weeping as he goes on seeking the fountain of youth, and every other muse echoes. Wow. What would you like to say about this song before we listen to it?
I love this because, of course, you're unraveling how much thought goes into these lyrics. I really enjoy the process of doing a lot of searching around on the web and researching. And I learn about a myth that intrigues me. I learn about an ecosystem and the plants and animals in a particular place in Florida a lot of times, or, I draw from all of these sources, poems. I'll do little nods to other works. That's one of my favorite things to do in lyrics, is to make a very obvious reference to another artist before me. And so to hear the context that you added with the description of Orpheus, the asteroid, and the way that Orpheus, manifested in your little exploration of it is different than the way that it appeared to me. And that's kind of the magic of a song, that the message is mutable, right? Like that you get to decide as the listener what it means to you and how it resonates for you. But underneath those specifics, there's still the truth, the basic truth of it.
The message is mutable. I think that's going to be the title of this episode.
Love that.
Yeah, I always wait for it to come in, but that one's good.
That's pithy.
I think the mutable signs, Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, they are our messengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are. So let's tune into this song.
The piper, if you wanna call the tune. Even that cock was an egg lay last June. Even if he had the strength of 10, still sad and beautiful.
mean, I feel the influence of you having Orpheus with your Pisces moon. Listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
The line that sticks with me from the Mystical Prophets website that also feels echoed in your lyrics, it's about the stone, because in the Mystical Prophets website, they said that Orpheus has the ability to soften the heart of stones. And then in the lyrics, you did mention the stone.
I say bewitching the stones.
Yes. So maybe let's start there.
Sure. I love that your intro to this song, I wanted to just let it be, because as I was saying, it just felt so apropos that I wrote this song with all of these references in mind, and you picked up on them, but you interpreted them through this like astrological lens. The way that I learned about the myth of Orpheus was from a movie that is one of my favorite movies of all time called Black Orpheus. And it is a modern day retelling of the myth of Orpheus, set in a favela in Brazil during Carnival, which is the big, like, debaucherous party that happens like Fat Tuesday, essentially. And so the myth is really cool overlaid in this context, I think, because the character of Orpheus in the film is a man who is just kind of arrogant and is very talented as a singer and guitar player, and everyone, you know, follows him around wanting to hear his songs. But he is hook, line, and sinker bought into this idea that he is the reason that the sun rises. So I was really coming at this song from the angle of, really similar to what we were talking about with road rage, that there are arrogant men who mistakenly fall for the trick that they are somehow the center of the universe, but none of us is the center of the universe. And so it's really sad and beautiful at once, that we all can fall for this pitfall in life. And yet we are all the center of our own universe. And it is beautiful to see your place in it all, I suppose. So that's kind of the spin I put on the myth.
Yeah. And I think there's an opportunity in here to even communicate about the shadow expression of Sagittarius, and also its potential for soul expansion. Just to bring it back to, you know.
Yes, please. Soul-centered astrology.
You know? So actually what you're describing in a lot of ways is the shadow of Sagittarius, where Sagittarius believes itself, and similar, Leo might have a similar shadow, because Leo's ruled by the sun, but the fire signs kind of hold this in common of like being like the center of their own universe. And Sagittarius's way of being about it is usually more through a worldview or a religion. So it's like, my religion is the only way and everyone else is going to hell. Like, this is the shadow of Sag. And evolution of Sag is to say, actually, there are many paths that lead to one uniting truth. And
amen.
whatever your worldview is, it adds to the complexities and the colors of truth. And that Sagittarius is like a circle with like 1,000 pillows, meditation pillows around it. And each pillow that you sit on has a different view of the altar in the middle. And so you're sitting across from me, you might see that behind the statue in the center of the circle is actually a bouquet of flowers, but I can't see it from my viewpoint. So Sagittarius, in some ways, is like on this journey to sit at every pillow so they get a full understanding of the world that we live in. And so the shadow of Sagittarius is traveling because you are the center of the universe. And this is like colonization. This is cultural appropriation. This is, traveling to spread the message of your religion.
Saviorism.
This is the shadow of Sag. So, under Sagittarius full moon, it is a time where that fiery kind of like rage can come up. Like that's something to be mindful of. Like maybe your next door neighbor, it's Gemini season, Gemini rules your neighbor, puts out a flag that like triggers you. And all of a sudden you're like, do they not understand that all beliefs lead to truth? So that's how I've felt Sag for me. Sag energy can really like confront my worldviews against someone else's. And honoring and acknowledging that some people are living in the shadow expression of this archetype, and that we have the opportunity to meditate on what Sagittarius's soul mission is, which is to build bridges of cultural understanding. And so it's no longer traveling because you are the center of the universe, but traveling because you want to bring all together around universal concepts of truth. So we kind of Missy Elliott flip it and reverse it.
Oh, yes. Is Missy a Sag?
No, but I wish.
Oh, okay.
Bringing it back to Cancer. She's a Cancer. I'm just feeling so much Cancer energy with you, I guess. I don't know
who is an R&B icon, who is a Sag, is Janelle Monáe.
Oh, yeah. Well, did you know that she was in the final 2 with Tina Turner for Queen?
Yeah. I voted.
And Janelle Monáe has a Cancer moon.
Ah.
Yes. And I think of her song, Sometimes a Mystery, which is Cancer. Sometimes I'm Free, Sagittarius, depending on my mood.
Yes.
Cancer or my attitudes. Sagittarius. Yeah. So someone who's Sagittarius with a Pisces moon is the hilarious actress Anna Faris. So that's fun for you to think about. And then also Little Richard is a Sagittarius with Pisces moon.
All right.
Yeah. And then he's got an Aries rising.
Oh, of course he does.
Yeah. So, and you have a Leo rising. So we feel your warmth. There's a thing I like to do. I call it personal myth making, which
love that.
Like your sun, your moon, and your rising, and you make a little story. So I'll share with you your personal myth, and we'll see if it conjures up any memory or connects you to a part of yourself. Okay. So the sun sign is the character of the story. So you are the optimistic archer, Sagittarius sun. The moon is the backdrop. With Pisces, sometimes I change the phrase for Pisces moon sometimes, and the one that's coming to mind right now is on a magical boat out to sea. So the optimistic archer, Sag sun, on a magical boat out to sea, entertaining us all with your warmth, Leo rising.
I feel that.
Well, that's exactly what
hits on all counts.
You tune into it. Does it bring up a memory or a thought, or where does your mind go?
I am thinking of a children's book right now. Makes sense. My 5th house is super lit up, and I think that I've always enjoyed that it's children and sexuality, and I feel like that's kind of at play in my world, and I think the Maggie B is this children's book that I'm thinking of, and it is gorgeously illustrated watercolor paintings. And it's a story about a little girl and her little brother who they go to sleep, and she has this fabulous dream of having a boat named after her and riding along the tips of the waves like a bird. And I think of that as like probably one of my ultimate fantasies, is just that I have this boat and I'm the captain, and I have good company along for the ride, and we're seeking new lands and new experiences.
You know what you're making me think of is, well, one, Tina Turner was Sagittarius sun and also had a Leo rising like you.
Oh.
So her sun is in the 5th house as well. because the rising sign lets us know like where the planets fall in the chart.
Mm-hmm.
She had a Gemini moon. She was a full moon baby, and we're in Gemini season. Gemini is connected also to this kind of dialogue of like siblings and nephews and nieces, and has also like a childish quality to it.
Yes, it's my polar sign.
Yes. So I wanted to talk about your polarity. We're in Gemini season.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini season on the northern hemisphere is the longest days of the year. I'm exhausted because the sun, even with my blind shut, wakes me up. Like in Portland, it stays light till like 10 p.m. in the summer.
Yeah.
The sun wakes up. I mean, talking about, the cock, the roof, waking up the sun.
Yes.
Woke me up at like, I want to say like 4:45 this morning, and I'm just like exhausted.
Already?
I'm like, Gemini season is just lit. It's so
Mm-hmm. You're right. It's lit.
It's so lit. So what does this time of year mean for you? And Sagittarius takes us into the darkest days. It's like internal flame, I think of with Sag. But Gemini is actually really like out in the world. And for me, I feel the duality because in Portland, Oregon, it rains half the year and then it's sunny half the year. So like it's literally like two personalities. And Portland actually is a Gemini moon. Portland's a Scorpio sun, Gemini moon. But anyway, I digress. What does Gemini mean to you as a Sagittarius? This also is going to segue us into your next song, which is
fun.
There's a song that you have about Mercury. It's called Retrograde.
Yes.
It'd be a cool one to explore because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and this is your polar sign. So what does all this bring up for you?
You just pinged something in my brain by bringing up retrograde. So my polar birthday twin is a friend of mine from 6th grade. We're still friends. Her name is Kat. And Kat is one of my friends who in our adulthood became a pretty expert astrologer. And she was the one who taught me about my big three. She was the one who told me, hey, your birthday is December 4. I'm June 4. So we're birthday twins, basically. And so we always remember each other's birthdays and say happy half birthday too on their birthday. So that is what first comes to mind, because this friend Kat is also a great poet and used to do poetry exercises on YouTube. And when I was living in New York and a part of the Brooklyn Fools, she put up this little poetry exercise, like, here, fill in the blanks of these questions and then make a poem out of it. And retrograde was the result of that exercise.
So many pings.
So many.
We're playing cosmic pinball over here. And we are not losing. Winning.
We're totally winning. So for me, it's like Gemini is everything all at once. And I guess maybe I experience the polarity of it as there's Sag that recognizes that multiple truths can be occurring at once, but choosing and kind of pursuing one at a time. Like I always think of the sacred phrase that I think you were the one who taught me this. I see the goal, I reach the goal, I see another, is the Sagittarian phrase. So that's like, that's the attitude that I have, but I really need that Gemini energy to balance me, because Gemini has this ability to hold space for the contrasting truths and to say, like, yes, this is true and it seems to contradict this, but they are both true at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, we feel that polarity. I mean, even we're talking about Sagittarius and its connection to building bridges between different worldviews. Like, Sag is doing this too, but maybe in a bit more expansive philosophical way, whereas Gemini might be doing it more in our day-to-day.
Right.
And even within the self. So Sagittarius's phrase is, I see the goal, I reach the goal, and then I see another. And I think of goal with a capital G.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini's phrase is, it's also I see, but it's I see my other self. And in the waning of that self, I grow and glow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So Gemini is more like looking in the mirror at the self.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fifth spirit depiction of the lovers because it's a person looking at themselves, but one of the reflection is a cosmic silhouette.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. We've explored a lot of this Gemini polarity. We have this song that you've written, I'm going to say to Mercury, although I don't know if that's true, called Retrograde. And I'm going to read the lyrics again.
Yay.
I don't have them.
Oh, do you want me to read them?
Yeah, will you read them? That feels
okay.
Good.
I will. Let me.
I also wanted to say this with the previous song that we just listened to, Sad and Beautiful, while you look for the lyrics.
Sure.
I noticed, when you go to Bandcamp, it shows you the release date, and you released Sad and Beautiful on the Leo full moon.
Yes. On purpose.
About that. Yeah. Is that something that you do? Do you align the release of your songs cosmically? So
I do enjoy doing that. I'm having a lot of fun with a project this year where I am making one song per month. And so it's become this really reasonable pace to keep up with, where I am able to choose a song that I either have been working on or have completed, and recording it and getting the collaborative element together, and then just having that deadline so that I can't be too much of a perfectionist about it. And so I say, okay, the song is done and we're putting it out. And the hope is that at the end of this year, I'll have 12 songs that I can spin into a full-length album next year.
Ah.
So that was the context for the song Sad and Beautiful. I had been sitting on the lyrics and the music for a while and wanted to put it out into the world in its first form. And so I have been enjoying creating the artwork in conjunction with the recording, and creating a container for the release. So what type of media is it? Is it a digital collectible? Does it have a physical element mixed in? And then I just choose a fortuitous day, whether it was Mercury stationing direct or full moon, or I think next month, for Pride Month, I'm putting together a mixtape, some other queer artists. And so that I think will be dropping on the summer solstice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. So, and by next month, I think you mean this month now, because when this is,
yes,
it will be June, and we're gathering today on the last day of May on Wednesday. And this is something I even do in interviews. I'm like, oh, it's Gemini season, Sagittarius full moon. Wednesday is Mercury's day. Mm-hmm. Let's gather on a Wednesday. That feels really nice. And the moon will be in Libra. I look.
Yeah, the vibe's got to be right.
Yeah, it's got to be right. So we're doing a bit of this. And even though this isn't released on Mercury's day, we're recording it on Mercury's day, which I'm just calling attention to since we're about to listen to a song about Mercury. So did you find the lyrics?
I did. Okay. This is Retrograde. Mercury burning, Mercury red. Mercury living, Mercury dead. Mercury backward, forging ahead. With Mercury leading, where am I led? Into the fray, but I'm not the winged one. Make a clumsy escape, clawing my way undone. Mercury casting Mercury's net. Mercury catches the same fish and tosses it back. One phase among many, the wax and the wane, Mercury artery, Mercury vein.
Is there anything you'd like to say about this song before we listen to it?
I think you read it correctly when you said that it's a song written to Mercury. I think I have tried to cultivate the attitude toward Mercury retrograde of it being a natural time to slow down, a natural time to take a sacred pause, maybe, and observe patterns, reflect, and get clear. Even though my nature is to forge ahead and not to be as mindful in those slow retrograde moments. So it was a reminder to myself to take care, and there's no rush.
And this is a good opportunity for us to just check in. We just finished a Mercury retrograde, and Mercury doesn't completely clear its shadow until June 1st. So this full moon is like, we're like clearing the Mercury retrograde. But maybe listening to this song is just an opportunity for us to reflect on maybe what this past Mercury retrograde taught us as we do get to move forward. So let's listen to it now.
Okay.
Mercury burning, Mercury red, Mercury living, Mercury dead, Mercury backward, forging ahead, with Mercury leading. Where am I led? Into the fray, but I'm not the winged one. Make a clumsy escape, clawing my way undone. Mercury casting, Mercury's net. Mercury saves his own ass by hedging his bets. It's these Mercury ties that Mercury bind, and I like to be tight, but when it's time to be cut loose, you're just so hard to find. One phase among many, the wax and the wane. Mercury artery, Mercury vein.
Some of that like Gemini contradiction and wordplay, especially at the beginning of the song, where it's like Mercury living, Mercury dead, you know, like it's going into these like contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that. I also, the word wane is in Gemini's esoteric phrase. I see my other self, and in the waning of that self, I go.
Yes.
You talked about the waxing and the waning. What did it feel like for you to receive this song, to listen to this song at this moment in time?
It's so special to revisit old recordings, because this is, I think, the oldest one that we're going to listen to today. And I'm struck by the nostalgia and just how it feels like another lifetime when I wrote these words.
It's I see my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and grow. Like, yeah, there is nostalgia to Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini is our childhood best friend.
Yes.
And so even you bringing up your actual like cosmic twin who's on the other side of the wheel, you were like, oh, we were friends in middle school or whatever. Like,
right.
That's Gemini. It's our siblings. And that's the thing is like, as vast and big as this Sagittarian planet is that we live on, we always have our childhood best friend, and there's nothing to erase the mystery of growing up down the block from each other as little kids on this vast planet.
Yeah.
And specialness of that connection that we share with people that we're in this very formidable time of our life where our imaginations were just like wide open. I mean, obviously we all have different like child backgrounds, and, you know, looking to Gemini in your chart could be an opportunity to just like get to know that. Like if you have Chiron and Gemini, maybe some of this might be like wounding a little bit of what we're talking about, you know? So just kind of look to Gemini in your chart, suns in Gemini and moons in Sagittarius on this lunation. And this Sagittarius full moon is on June 3rd, the day before your half birthday.
Yeah.
It's found at 13 degrees of Sag. So sun in Gemini, 13 degrees, moon in Sag, 13 degrees.
This is interesting because I do associate Gemini with the child self. And I recently read a really cool book called Discovering the Culture of Childhood. And the main premise is that no matter where on earth you are, if you're hanging out with a group of young children, there are universal experiences that all children have. And that kind of adds up to be this unique culture of childhood. And so there's that awkward transitional time when you're an adolescent and you're trying to learn how to be in the culture of adulthood while you're still existing in the culture of childhood. So I see that tension here where we're always growing and evolving and leaving former selves behind, but that doesn't erase them. Like you were saying about those memories of early friendship, they're treasured and they can't be taken from us. So how do we like learn from the reflection, like we were saying before?
So beautiful. And it's the memory or the thought that it's making me think of is actually Tina Turner. And she's Sagittarius with Gemini moon, so she's working with this polarity. But one of the things that she did in her lifetime that feels so Sagittarian, but also feels so Gemini, is that she brought 30 children, each from a different nation, together to sing and chant. And then she recorded an album. It's called Beyond.
Oh, wow.
It's like what you're talking about right now is like this joint like childhood experience that transcends culture. There's something so Gemini Sagittarius about this concept.
And music, I think, fits in that category too, as something that's universally experienced.
Yes. You're making me think of a memory I had now. So whenever we travel the world, it's a Sagittarian moment.
Mm-hmm.
But in those Sagittarian moments, we are gifted Gemini opportunities to get to explore the neighborhood of wherever you're traveling to, which Gemini is the neighborhood. And when I traveled to Nicaragua, I was gifted this opportunity to be the on-site tarot reader of a yoga retreat.
Ooh.
I was so excited about it. It was a surfing and yoga retreat. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to surf. I'm going to do yoga every day. And then I'm going to read tarot and blah, blah, blah. I get there day one where it's just the practitioners are there. We're arriving early and we are like settling in and getting prepared for the people to arrive. And I'm, coming from New York City. So I'm like pulling up in my Doc Martens to Nicaragua. And the person I'm traveling with was like, why didn't you bring like flip-flops or something? And I was like, I don't own flip-flops. So she was like, well, let's go buy you flip-flops at the store. So we went to this market. We bought we're twinning. We both bought the same flip-flops for like $1.
Perfect.
And then I'm walking down the rocks in flip-flops. I would have had my Doc Martens on. I should have just what I wanted. and the front of my flip-flop gets caught on a rock and I fall like,
oh no,
like 5 feet tumbling down the rock, and I broke my foot. And I was literally the hanged one for the whole 10 days of the retreat.
Which I know is a very resonant card for you.
I tattooed it on my forearm like 6 months prior. So be careful what you tattoo on your body, because you'll learn the lessons of it. And I didn't get to surf, or I did a little bit of yoga, but I was in pain and I was in a hammock the whole week. But because of that, I got to take a like rickety bus to the village. And the bus was so filled with hitchhikers and people along the way, because the village where the hospital was, or the clinic was 2-hour drive from where the retreat center was. And so I'm sitting in the front because I have a broken foot. Like I'm sitting in the front passenger seat. Mm-hmm. It's not a bus, it's like a long van. But then we picked up a group of kids, and one of the kids had to sit in my lap. And he saw in my tote bag that I had with me, for whatever reasons, I brought my tarot deck with me to the clinic. He saw my tarot deck and he pointed at it. I didn't speak Spanish. He didn't speak English, but we have this like shared language. And so he wanted to flip through each tarot card. And it was like, so when you're talking about music as being a universal language, the tarot also is like images. Yes. Art is universal language. So we're flipping through each card, and he'll stop and react to it, like mime out a reaction to it. But the card that he was most struck by is actually 2 cards really stick out in my mind. And it's Gemini's card and Sagittarius's card. And I didn't make this connection until now. But when he saw the Lover's card, because it has 2 naked people, he like giggled and then closed his eyes, like covered his eyes. He was like embarrassed.
Like, oh, I'm not supposed to see that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was Jim's card. He's probably like 7 years old. Then the other card that he stopped at is Sagittarius's card, which Sagittarius's soul growth card is Temperance, which is like blending of like fire and water together. And it's an angel with big wings. And when he saw the Temperance card, he bowed. Like did little prayer hands and bowed, and like paused on it for like a minute. Like we were on Temperance for the longest. And those are the 2 cards that I remember the most. And I never thought about the polarity of Gemini and Sag, but also young kid, Gemini, in another part of the world, Sagittarius. And then I actually took a selfie with him holding the Sagittarius card. So I'll repost that for this.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, okay. Lots coming through just by, this is what's cool. We listen to music, and the lyrics and the songs will trigger memories and create opportunities for connection. And I think this feels so Sagittarian to me. It's like getting lost on a journey through some sort of art form. So
I'm having so much fun.
I'd also have something to do with the fact that you have Mercury in Sagittarius.
I do.
Conjunct the galactic center.
Yes.
So the galactic center is found at approximately 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So you can look around that degree of Sagittarius in your chart. The galactic center is essentially the point in which our solar system orbits around. And so it's said to be this cosmic vortex to intergalactic wisdom. And you have Mercury and Sag conjunct the galactic center. So like having conversations with you likely is like, Mercury's conversations, it's your writing. It's like ability to like tap into some sort of cosmic vortex energy. I have Uranus in Sagittarius at 26 degrees of Sag. So right here, hanging out with Mercury. So for me as an astrologer, connecting to Uranus conjunct the galactic center is like major. So what's that like? Is this new information for you, Mercury conjunct the galactic center? Have you thought about this, tuned into it?
I stumbled upon that fact when I learned my whole chart a few years ago. And that made a lot of sense to me. I do, like you, feel like an alien a lot of the time. I identify with this hermit archetype a little bit, in that it's like the way shower, the one who's holding the lamp. But sometimes there can be a lot of skepticism that person is met with, where like I often feel like I'll have a big idea or a vision for where things are headed or where I want to go. And the challenge is really showing people that it's a good idea, or that like there's something for them there, I guess maybe is what I'm feeling about it. And so the Galactic Center, it must be that source for the optimism, I want to say, like where it's vast and unknowable, and yet I'm connected to it somehow. And so I feel like I can draw fortitude from it and keep searching, even though it's dark and unknowable.
Wait, don't you have like an alien persona?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I have a children's character and entertainer for children who is also a roller skater. It's a glitterific space cadet is what I call them. Their name is Millie Marzipan.
Yes.
And Millie Marzipan has purple hair and roller skates on rainbows to navigate the cosmos. So yeah, that's making sense too now, isn't it?
Yeah, Mercury in the 5th house of children conjuncts the galactic center, and Mercury is the planet connected to children because it's the smallest planet. It's connected, like Mercury is connected to children and small animals. It's just like, I mean, Millie Marzipan.
Synergy.
I mean, it's right there. That's Mercury in Sag conjunct the galactic center right there is that other persona. And again, Mercury as Gemini's ruling planet is usually our other self, like our other persona. So like anyone, like I think of like RuPaul, has their boy self and their drag self.
Yes.
RuPaul, Scorpio, very much a Scorpio, but Gemini moon, Gemini rising, has that like other self. I think of even like Beyonce with Sasha Fierce is a Virgo.
Yes.
Ruled by Mercury. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. There can be this kind of like other self that we talk about with Mercury. So not only do we find that with Gemini, but anything that's mercurial, wherever Mercury is in our chart, is like kind of this shape-shifting energy. And we know Mercury has a shape-shifting quality to it. Mercury is the messenger, able to go in the underworld and bring out the shadow or bring out the other self, which drag reveals ourself. It like shows our shadow self, or like for you, Millie Marzipan is like this other expression of yourself. And
you just said it. I really did come to think of Millie Marzipan as my non-binary drag, that I had never really thought of drag as a non-binary thing. I guess it is gender bending in and of itself, but the idea of putting on a non-binary persona, because I do identify as non-binary, but I also use she, her pronouns in my day-to-day life. And so I did get a lot of juice from the idea that I can put on a mask and inhabit another way of being.
So cool. I mean, so much is just firing off from this conversation. But we are, in that Sagittarian way, we've gone like way over time. So I'm going to reel it in. We're going to, reel it back from the galactic center and come back into our bodies. So a way that we can do that is by thinking about this full moon in Sagittarius looks to Jupiter. And Jupiter is currently in Taurus. So actually, there is this invitation to connect to Earth, and fixed Earth is Taurus. So this is going to bring us to our final song that we're going to listen to, which is your most recent song that you've released. And you released it right at the beginning of Taurus season this year in 2023, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it is called, what is the title of it?
It is A Loquat and a Lime.
Tell us about a loquat. What's a loquat? I know what it is, it doesn't really grow where I live. So tell Yeah.
Gladly. So I'm kind of a fruit nerd. If you look back in my song catalog, I I've been recording and releasing my own music since I was a teenager. Hi, BG. And I decided to kind of just give in to this love I have of fruit and using it as an imagery in my songs. And tropical fruit, especially, are in abundance in Florida. We're very lucky to have access to a lot of really yummy different types. And one of them is a loquat. So a loquat is, I would say, kind of like a slightly smaller apricot. It is a tangy kind of flavor. It has golden yellow flesh and a shiny coppery seed in the middle. And this time of year is when the loquats are blooming. So I thought it would be appropriate to let this song out into the world in the right season.
The Taurus season.
Mm-hmm.
The Taurus emoji. We did zodiac emojis in 2020, and the emoji for Taurus is the grapes emoji. That came forward. And you're making me think of when I lived in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Got to connect to so many new fruits that I never connected to before, like the lilikoi.
Haven't had that one.
Or the rambutan.
Oh, delicious.
These are some like exotic fruits for me. They are anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So vibrant, so colorful. So yeah, we're grounding in with this song. I do think it made me, I was like, oh yeah, you released this right at the start of Taurus season. This makes sense. And the cover art, and it kind of has like a mythological feel to me. It's like, it almost has like a lover's feel to me. It's like these two figures, they look dreamy and in love, surrounded by nature and fruit and crystals and sunshine colors. It's a long, kind of flowing, lyrical song, which is quite gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yes. Where were you when you wrote this song?
I was right here where I'm talking to you now. I was in my little home in Lake Worth, Florida, and it was about this time last year. And I always look back on this one date that I went on that just will forever be one of my favorite dates. And if anybody ever wants to woo me, they should just do this, which is to take me somewhere that's a little bit urban, but in Florida, a lot of times there will just be random fruit trees lining the streets. And so if it's in season, that stuff's fallen and it's kind of like ripe for the taking. So, for this date, we went to a little downtown area and wandered around picking fruit and collected a bunch of mangoes and some loquats and a few lychees and tamarind pods. And it was just the essence to me of abundance and like connection and joy brought on in this messy, chaotic way with juices everywhere.
I'm getting a bit of like Empress in the tarot vibes. I'm getting a little bit of the Lover's card in the tarot too. So if you want to kind of play along, would there be any other cards that you would think of with this?
Oh, the Six of Pentacles.
Ooh, why?
I'm thinking of the depiction in the Wild Unknown tarot, which is 6 little fruits on a vine, and each of the fruits has a pentacle inside.
Ooh, nice.
Fecundity.
Add that one to the mix, which 6 is the lovers, 6 of Pentacles is the earthy lovers. So there we go. So let's listen to this song now. song.
Oh, thank you so much.
I love that you utilize your falsetto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's funny you bring that up, I guess, because pre-pandemic, I lost my voice for a period of time. It was completely gone for about a month, and took at least a year to really completely return and heal. And that was largely because I really burnt myself out, and I was touring a lot and talking loudly in crowded bars after my performances. And, that stuff adds up. And I do think that the learning for me coming back to music after that injury to my voice and needing to work to heal helped me remember that range means a whole lot of things. And Beyonce is actually a great example of somebody who in her early career was all about the vocal gymnastics and the belting and like being able to sing high notes in that big chest voice. But as she's progressed and evolved as an artist, you can really hear in her more recent albums that dynamic quality. And what makes a great singer, in my opinion, is somebody who can have that dynamic element where you know when to pull back and you know when to let it rip.
Dynamic. I think this is a word that we could use to describe Sagittarius.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you say pull back, I'm still coming back to pulling back on the bow and arrow. When to pull back and when to
let go.
Let go, let it rip.
Wow. It's both. It's both actions.
Yes. And, Sagittarius, this is one of its core strengths that I actually think we missed the mark on, so to speak, is that Sagittarius actually, like, if you were to I actually want to practice archery at some point.
That'd be super cool.
Walking, like, there's a park close by to me. It's actually, apparently, I don't know if this is true, but someone just told me in passing recently that Portland, Oregon has the largest park adjacent to a city in the nation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was walking in that park, no big deal. There's this whole archery section. I was like, maybe I'm going to learn archery this summer. But I was watching the archers and thinking about through the lens of Sagittarius. And I'm like, we often talk about Sagittarius being so like restless and kind of like not focused. But in order to actually be an archer, you have to be extremely focused and disciplined. So it's like in order for you as a Sagittarius and you as in you listening and all of us, because we all have Sagittarius somewhere in our chart. I almost said in our heart. We all have somewhere. We all can be Sagittarius. Like if you're studying abroad or traveling to India or whatever it is that you're doing, you are Sagittarius in that moment. And it takes a fiery focus in order to make that happen. Like if I want to go to India next year, I got to start saving some money. I got to start like planning my life accordingly because I can't just buy a ticket to India tomorrow and go. Like, where am I going to be in India? Am I going to go to an ashram? Am I going to have a tour? Like, am I going for some sort of pursuit or purpose? Like, to really embody the high idealism and vision of Sagittarius, it does take a proper amount of focus and planning. Like, even to release an album, like, I think this feels so Sagittarian to me is the Song a Month project that you have. Because Sagittarius is like, I'm in it for the long haul. The Tarot journey.
Yes.
This is my Sagittarius. I have Saturn and Uranus and Sag. And I'm like, oh, we're not going to meet just one time. This ain't no book club. We're in it for 22 weeks. For each major arcana, we're going on a journey together.
Yes.
That Song a Month project is like you going on a journey with yourself. And so there is this, I think Sagittarius is actually incredibly disciplined in order to allow that vision to come into fruition. But a song a month also gives you freedom and movement to play within that structure that's being
exactly.
Me? And I have Beach over here at the windowsill looking out.
We have our Gemini familiars making an appearance.
Hey. Hey, come here. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know. We got lost somewhere in that combo. I don't know what we were talking about.
We have covered so much ground. It's been a really lovely walk. It feels like we've been on a trail together, like walking through a magic wood or something.
Yes, and you were our guide, serenading us along the way with your beautiful voice, your moon conjunct Orpheus and Pisces. Even though Orpheus might also be an asshole, I'm learning. But Orpheus is also where we have musical capabilities in our chart too.
And every annoying jerk adult was once a really adorable child. So
that is true. And we all are deserving of love. That is a sacred truth that we can align with on the Sagittarius full moon, is that everyone on this planet has a right to be loved and to love.
And you are, in this moment, loved.
Yes. Breathing that in, taking that in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If people are wanting to get to know you and your work, support your work, where might they find you?
I am on Instagram at Chili L Millie is my Instagram handle. And you can also hear all of the music I've released since I was 16 years old on lindseymills.bandcamp.com.
And I'll put a link to those in the show notes. And your Instagram handle makes me think of a nostalgic pastime, my favorite, popsicle Chili Willies when I was a kid.
Oh, so good. Yes.
Summer.
The logo, it definitely is a spirit animal.
Yes.
A little penguin.
Forgot about that little guy. We didn't really get to talk about crypto and NFTs and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
If there's a tech witch out there, you can reach out to Lindsey and join what is the coven? The crypto coven?
I started my own little corner of the internet where I am teaching anyone who's interested about the power of crypto, how modern witches can get into it and play around, and also tarot magic, all kinds of things. My little personal coven that I'm cultivating is called Salt Witch Magic Society. And there's more info about that on my Instagram as well.
Love that. Salty. I just had someone reach out to me this week, actually, asking if I would accept crypto for
wow.
Maybe I'll be reaching out to you soon, because I'm
let's do it.
I'm like, okay, sure. I had crypto for a little bit, and then I bounced out. I checked it all. I just cashed out. I was just this is a lot for me. It feels like a lot. And I would love to find ways to make a more sustainable life for myself too. So
it's become really hyper financialized, but the part about it that I find really compelling is the ownership of content. And so I think it's really relevant to anyone who creates content online on any topic. And the ability to own not only the work that you're creating, but also the relationships with people who engage with your work. I think that's the part that feels really liberating and exciting. So I'm looking forward to finding new ways to make it more palatable and easy to understand for other, magical people who are curious.
Well, thank you for being a teacher for us. This is also Sagittarius. And I feel that teacher spirit coming out in what you're sharing. And It's been such an honor to get to gather with you in this way. I think this is the longest conversation I've had on the podcast. So, oops, I did it again. Another Sagittarius. Okay. Big love to you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I love you so much.
Thank you, as always, Cosmic Cousins, for tuning into the podcast. Without you, this show would not be possible. Also, thank you so much to Lindsey Mills for being on the podcast this week. It was so awesome talking to you. Please go support Lindsey Mills' work. I have links in the show notes to their Bandcamp and to ways to support them. There's also birds chirping in the background, which feels very Gemini. So I'm wishing you a lovely rest of Gemini season. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the Gemini new moon. And maybe I will see you for the 5-week Asteroid Planetoid summer series. So if you want to learn more about that, you want to gather with me on Zoom for 5 Mondays in a row, starting June 19th, the Gemini new moon, to July 17th, the Cancer new moon. Please check that out. I'd love to gather with you this summer. All right, that's all we have for this episode. I'll see you next time, cousins. Take sweet care, and remember, deep breaths.